I am based in Fredericton, and right next to us is the Gagetown base, which is the biggest infantry base that's here in Canada for the Canadian Armed Forces. And so we get a lot of guys that come here that have that've been in the military for a long time. Yeah, I mean, family man. I got married, 5 kids, enjoying the time here. So,
Oh, fantastic! And what's your background? What do you do for work?
so I have Masters of Social Work. So I am a counselor here. I work for the True North Neurofeedback and Biofeedback Clinic. So we have psychologists, counselors, therapists, and yeah, so we do that kind of work here. And we do a lot of work with the military guys. So
When we went to Bosnia in 1994, 1995, we had an exchange. We'd always have Canadian soldiers be with us as well. So I remember the first time we met Canadian soldiers, like, are you American? And they were like, are you Australian? We're like, we're going to get on just fine. So I get this email saying that some of the guys you're working with, you found the book, the book that's over my shoulder there, the Good
yeah.
News About PTSD. How'd you find it? How did that all start?
And it was interesting because I was looking up different ways to be able to help these men and women that were coming to me with all this PTSD, right? And they've been going to psychs and counselors for decades now, and nothing's been helping. And so it forced me to be like, okay, what's out there that actually works? Because I mean, just like your book outlines, right? I was using hyper arousal, right? And saying these words, and you can see them glaze over immediately, right? And it's like not understanding. And then um, I have through a library system that we were in Alberta for a while. We have it's an app. It's called Hoopla,
Okay.
and I searched on their PTSD, and your book came up,
Oh, wow.
and so I was able to borrow it, and I started listening, and I was just hooked right away. And right, I think I was on the second chapter, so and I started using those words, and immediately I could see, oh, it hit home for them. And almost every one of them that I meet with now, I start talking about things, and I've been introducing the book and the language, and in a lot of ways, it helps me to be a better counselor on this side because I'm using the language that they understand. Uh, it makes it so much easier for them to kind of, understand what I'm trying to say. Instead of me saying, you need a support network, you know, I say reinforcements, right? And it works perfectly because in
Yeah.
their mind, it makes sense.
Yep.
Instead of me saying, oh, you need support network because you're weak, right? It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
reinforcements, right? So it
Yeah.
hits home. And I think the biggest thing was just just the emotions that came through in the way you were reading. um, I could immediately tell, right? And I love because and the and I think the voice and the way you spoke kind of helped me to be able to kind of get connected to it too, right? And it brings that all that love that I have for the Pacific Island people back into me, right? It's that I grew up loving that, and I miss it desperately to this day, right? And I tell
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
brother all the time, like I need to be back there. But I think it was when you were talking about your subconscious bodyguards in there. It's like yeah, that's just your brain,
Mm.
right? In a way, protecting you um, no matter what. Like I mean, your ROE hasn't changed, um, right? I mean, that's your subconscious bodyguard telling you, okay, this is what I know, and this is what I'm going to do
Mm.
until you actually give me different information to make me change. And I think that was the biggest thing when that I realized because all these men and women that I was seeing were like werewolves, right? I mean, they were just lashing out whenever they got the chance to, with whenever anything happened. And so it was crazy when I started using this is a subconscious bodyguard, and I started explaining, okay, what that actually was. And they're like, yeah, it is. Right. It's funny because I was talking to one of the ladies last week, and she's like, yeah, I'm an assassin. So I was like, yeah, that's great,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So I was able to like, okay, this makes sense. This is good. We're making good progress.
Yeah, and it's warrior based. You don't like
Mhm.
you use the words, it's hyperarousal, it's hypervigilance, you got post-traumatic stress disorder, you need a support network. And then what they hear is I'm either crazy or I'm weak, right? And then when you say, hey man, this is just how you're trained. When that happened in the kitchen, that's a
Mhm.
contact rear. That's your IAs. That's your immediate action drill. You're trained that way. And so it was
Yep.
always the first step. I don't know, it was the first step when I wrote it. And now when you understand what your subconscious bodyguard is, then you know what the true form is. And that's why I'm
Mhm.
really excited to be able to share the online course, because we go a little bit deeper into it. It's like if you're a werewolf, it's because you're a protector. You're a warrior without a war, and then that's why we then had to write the VIP of mental health to say, okay, then that's actually training. That's cool. We'll just do a different sort of training. So you've got your subconscious bodyguards under control and you can kick their ass or
Mhm.
slap their ears and get them back under control. That's cool. And then once you get from that, it's who am I now, and where's my value? Because you
Mhm.
can control automatic responses because you train them into yourself. It's going to take time. There's a process, right?
Mhm.
But after that, it's now where do I get my value from is where we evolve past that. So like, okay, then I can deal with the trauma, I can deal with the nightmares, I can deal with the flashbacks. I make sense of all of that. I'm cool with it. I get on well with my ghost and vampire now. It's actually really handy to
Mhm.
have, every now and again. It's nice to show someone that there's a werewolf in there to say, oi,
Right.
that's,
Yeah.
that's okay. It's just you just retrain them. So we always used to say, retrain, rebrief, and redeploy. That's all we're doing. And then
Mhm.
once you get to that point, cool, I've got all my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors under control. But who the hell am I now? I'm
Yeah.
out of uniform now, or I'm looking to get out of uniform now, or my wife, my kids only know this guy or this girl. Now who am I? And then so we have to go into the VIP of mental health to teach them that you can choose your identity. You can have some of those characteristics, that's cool. But then what's the actual process though? I'm sick of this, they're soldiers. That
Mhm.
from here we're doing this. Duck, 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 we're going, la.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
like it.
And I did that exact same thing with one guy. Um, and he came in here and he was a huge mess, right? And I just had a meeting with him, session with him last week, and it took a while, like for him to be able to get to this point where he's like, things are great. I'm loving life now. When he first came to me about a month and a half ago, he was totally in the dumps, right? He was seeing things as like, he was ready to kill somebody. He was just going to hide, and be that vampire, right? Comes out,
Yeah.
does whatever he needs to, and then goes back in hiding. And so he was doing all these things, and we had our heart to heart, right? I mean, and I basically did the same thing, right? Rebrief, retrain, and deploy, right? And we worked through those phases,
Yeah.
and it worked fantastic for him, right? And he's reading your book now, so yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, we found I got a couple of US Marine Corps friends, and I've got a group of hardcore werewolves out of US Marines, and they say, hey man, your books, our Bibles, every now and again we have a werewolf. We have like instead of AA, we have like a WA, we have a werewolf anonymous sort of meeting. We said, all right, how's everyone going? Anyone ripped anyone's heads off today? And
yeah.
they're using I want them to take it and make it their own. That was the whole point of having the exercises. And I love that the first thing you did, because in the audio book we talk about, for werewolves that, lose their temper quite easily.
Mhm.
We go through that moon state chart, so
Yep.
what's taking you from no moon all the way out. Because once you get full moon, you get a werewolf. And Riwai Takahu was one of the padres, and he told the story about his 10-year-old son. There's processes through the system where you can design your own subconscious bodyguards. And so after we did the military side, I got into protecting women and helping rape victims and sexual assault victims. It was all the same because we're all people.
Yeah.
And so now, not all soldiers like reading. That's why we did the audio book. Oh my God, it was hard to write that book, mate. Far out. Oh,
Yeah.
The end of that audio book, far out. I'm in pieces, mate.
I know. I was almost crying with you there. It's like, man, this is, it helped me deal with my own traumas also. I mean, I've been doing this type of work for 15, 16 years now, right? I mean, I've worked alongside law enforcement, doing child protection investigations and stuff like that. So as a trained forensic investigator, right, I get to see the, the evil side of the world, right?
Yep.
People who have done terrible things to others, right? And so this helped me to be able to deal with my own trauma also, right? And my favorite thing that out of that, one of my favorite things, the many things in there, is the poem that you read in the end, "The Company of Soldiers."
Oh yeah.
Right, and I share that with almost everyone that comes in through this door. It's like, it, it's amazing. It, it makes my hair stand. Right, it's like, it's just, I love it. Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting because unless you're in this, and that was a beauty, and I'm so grateful now going from military to police and understand that side of people and seeing it, and being able to talk about the nightmares of all the dead kids.
Yeah,
Because a lot of that pain comes from love, bro. It's here,
it does.
and we
Yeah.
don't use that word love enough. But this is a really important point, Nilesh, because who cares for the carer?
Yeah.
It was I made it a battle, way back in the day where psychology this and that, because I was still in that, and then okay, it's everyone's trying to do the best that they know how to do, and there's one critical factor that no one argues about in this whole thing. The single most accurate predictor of success of getting someone through this is the relationship with the person offering the support, which is you or it's me or whoever it is. So if we don't speak the language, we don't feel it, we're not going to connect.
Yep.
We're just going to go through, tick the boxes, and most of us are really, really good at giving the answers that you want to hear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can tick all the boxes. Are you having this? No, not at all. I can pass any one of those tests and be fine. And if I'm super honest, like all the red flags are going off, right? But the who cares for the carers is this is the other side of what we wanted to do. Man, you're doing this day in, day out, 15, 16 years. You're taking all of this on and you're putting all of this in your head and processing it. So I'm absolutely, use a Kiwi term, absolutely wrapped, mate. Like I'm so happy that after you're finished helping these men and women out in uniform, that when you go home, you can actually sit down and use this to process it yourself and make it okay and say, hey, man, this is an absolutely normal, natural response to what I'm dealing with, because you actually care about these people still, mate. And not everyone is the same, Some people, I'm talking about support providers here. Some people are really jaded by it, or they're really bitter by it, or they just keep running the process to get through the day. But if your heart's still in it and they know that you care, which is the one thing excuse my language, you can't bullshit another person whether or not you care or not. And so when you care and that there's some love there, then, man, I keep asking this question of the psychs I dealt with, or the counselors I was talking to, was just tell me what to do. That's all a soldier wants, mate. Okay, so this is the situation. This is the mission. Give me the execution general outline. Admin log and command and assist, let me go and do it, And so now you've done that beautifully. Like, okay, guys, listen, here's a book that uses this language, and you're like, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So here's the book. Go away and do this, come back. Go away and do this, come back. Go away and do this, come back. That's how they used to get in trained anyway. And so the next step we've got is we're giving access to yourself and to who you're working with, to the online course now. We can actually go deeper into it and bring the learning wider and go higher and go deeper, because the partners, the husbands and the wives and the family members, I always get a lot of feedback from them. The wives email me going, my husband could have written your book. Like, I just put my husband's name on the bottom of the cover and he could have written that book. And so now the partners are understanding and understanding the language.
Because just recently found your book. I have been giving it out like crazy. I know that the people the men and women that I've given it to, they have nothing but positive comments about it. They love it. And the one guy that I spoke to you about that's doing so well now, he's already been telling me that he's giving it out to others. Right. And so that's amazing.
25th of January 2022, our whole focus in the Line Academy is 2022 is all about you. It's okay to be all about you, but oh my God, is it a struggle when you're still in military mindset? It's not allowed to be about you. It's got to be about the team.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all team before self. So we kill self. And then all of a sudden we get angry at self when self kicks back and goes, oh, you've been ignoring me all this time. and for the record, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do. Now I'm getting in trouble for it, you know?
I know, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I try and remind my guys that every time. It's like, you need to take care of yourself. You've been so amazing at being able to take care of others. And the same thing to you, Dion, right? It's like, you never knew me, but you joined the military and you've gone and fought wars, taking care of bad guys that, without me knowing that they were out there, right? Taking care of me and my family without you even knowing it. And I tell that to these men and women that, I'm so proud of you for doing that. I'm proud of you, Dion, for doing that, doing this, because heck, I mean, I don't know what the hell world would be without you guys to be able to do that.
Well, it's an interesting one, and thank you, appreciate that. But you've only got value for certain roles. No one cares about the fireman until there's a fire. Yeah, right. No one cares about the soldier until the enemy's knocking on the gates. I mean, that's human behavior. Well, and this is why it's so important to have that battle buddy. All throughout the military system, you've got that battle buddy because I said it in that speech. Every time I sit on an airplane, every time I hear that safety brief, that soldier in me kicks back. In the event, a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will fall from the ceiling. Pull down sharply to start the flow of oxygen. Place it over your nose and mouth, and breathe naturally. But then it says, put your own oxygen mask on before assisting someone else. No, that voice goes, crack, get it on your mate first before you put it on yourself. It's the fundamental part of the training. Military training trains you to be hyper vigilant and hyper aroused. That's the training. It's just open this up, take out all empathy, compassion, and all these sorts of feelings. The logic side of prefrontal cortex. Take all those emotions out. We don't need those. And all we're going to put back in here is controlled aggression and love for your brother and love for your team. And then away you go. Then you come back, and then when you get out, so open this back up and trying to get all the stuff back in. And we laugh about it now because it just sounds ludicrous when you say it like that. It's like, oh, actually, yeah. Hang on a second. And so when I was first dealing with a lot of the established, I'm like, hey, just use this language so at least the conversation can happen. And that was a battle in itself. It's like, well, I'll ask you as a question. Why is there a resistance in certain medical modalities to exploring something else? Like you said it right at the start. It's like, this is years of the same stuff. Is there anything else? You went looking. So where's the resistance? What from your side? How do we get through that bit? I mean, it's happening now because I can't control it. The book's out there. It'll go where it's supposed to go. But professionally, how do you do that? What's the question you ask to get to the point where they're even open to looking at something else that might work?
And I think your book covers that really well right in the beginning. Is that when you went to get it published, right? It's like, what are the credentials behind this person? Right? It's basically the same, right? I mean, I've been doing this work for such a long time, but until I got an MSW behind my name, that people started seeing me as like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, not until I was like able to have the degree behind my name or those credentials that people paid attention. It's the same way now. Is that I've taken your book to everybody, and I say to them, it's like, this guy is a military guy, and he talks that, and he's shared his story, and people will be like, well, what training does he have? Like that, right? Right. And so I have to go into like, okay, well, this is what he actually does, right? And to be able to change the language, it hurts psychologists and counselors because they're like, well, these are the language that I'm used to, right? And it's changing that mind frame. And and helping them to be able to realize this is not actually helpful, that you keep putting the same things down someone's throat, and it's like decades of therapy and it's not working. We got to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was on a radio show called the Nutters Club. Our mental health champion here in New Zealand that we all know, that we all came up on, is a guy called Mike King from the Nutters Club. Shout out to Mike. Kia ora. On his Nutters Club show, he's a clinical psychotherapist, Kyle McDonald, super smart guy. But he's like, I'm going to use everything that I've got to help these people. But when I first went on that show, there's a clinical psychologist called Ingo Lambrecht. And I didn't know what they thought about the book, apart from all the doors slamming as soon as, hey, they've got an ex-soldier reckons he can help with PTSD. He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But when Ingo read the book, he's like, hey, man, this is psychology. Like, you're just taking Carl Jung's archetypes and creating a process so people can take their own archetypes. You're doing exactly what we're taught in psychology anyway. So I don't see what the issue is. So, you've got the werewolf for hyperarousal, you've got the paranoid assassin for hypervigilance, and depression, anxiety covered by the vampire and the ghost. So this is actually, and so when we got that clinical endorsement, it was really, really simple. Then it's like, hey, I've got the world's first good news book about PTSD. I've lived it and beaten it. And then they hit that, also, who are you to do this? And it's clinically endorsed. They go, oh. And that was as soon as you got clinical endorsement, we're back there as a soldier, like, hey, man, if this works, it works, but the liability and the risk you understand as you evolve. And that's why we had to create the line academy. I had to put everything together. So you go trauma, transition, evolution are our lanes. So trauma, very simple to help people through. It's not easy, right? Simple, it's not easy. And then once you get to the transition side, that's where you need the VIP of mental health. And then evolution is why I had to create the academy. Okay, then, so you've come through trauma, you've been in uniform, you've done your job, did a great job, you've lost mates along the way, you probably lost your marriage along the way, and all the rest of it. And so you're kicking back and you're manifesting as those bodyguards. And then when you understand, okay, then this is actually my true identity here. It's not a werewolf, it's a protector. I'm a protector. Okay, so you feed off that positive identity. So who am I now? And then transition in and out of uniform. So in there, you rebuild the VIP triangle. And then you get to choose to evolve. So who do you want to be? And that's the exciting conversation now. It's like, okay, man, you're this protector. You've come from here. You value this. You transition to here. You get it now. But who do you want to be now? Hey, man, I still want to be part of a team and be a protector and do this and do that. Cool. Then here's these other options. Because everyone talks about the light at the end of the tunnel. Now let's talk about out the tunnel, in the light, walking out there and go, where do you want to go next? And depending on the subconscious bodyguard, the werewolf could be, you know what? Nothing. I'm going back to Fiji, man, lay on the beach for a year. I'm tired.
I know, right?
I just want to recharge now. That's all the rest of it, go do some fight training or whatever, or have a challenge later. But I've been a werewolf for 15 years, man. I'm tired. Let's have a rest. The paranoid assassin who's the actual watcher or the owl is like, you know what, man, I'm gonna have a Netflix binge and just feed positive stuff for this machine in my mind that's been trained to look for danger, and I'm going to look for stuff. And then I might become an investigator because, man, what better skill for a paranoid assassin who's actually a scout or a watcher? Be an investigator, investigate stuff. I mean, man, whether it's university or whether it's as an investigator. Then your ghosts and your vampires are actually the heart-centered people who are your medics, and when you do the course, we come to those heart-centered people, then do some heart-centered stuff. But you can feed yourself, and then until you're ready to feed that within yourself, do it for your battle buddies, and then you can all sort of do it together. Give yourself permission to do it, and it, to me, it's a systems approach to training, and I know we'll get there. The book's popping up everywhere. I don't even know. I just wrote it down. Hoopla. I don't even know. I mean, when we first did this and we sent it here, we said it just went out, and stuff just started coming back, and I was like, how the heck did it get to Canada? Fijian in Canada. I mean, what's Fijian goes to Canada?
The crazy ones.
There had to be a woman involved. Like that's the Pacific Island way around the world.
Oh,
he's like,
it is.
What is this good-looking brown guy doing in the snow?
I know, right? Otherwise I would have never moved here anyway. So
yeah. Like Canada's not the first pick for Pacific Island tropical people.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. So for everyone watching, this is just a bit of encouragement I'm going to put out through my whole tribe. As we've moved, all the way through those things, and we're out here in the Line Academy, the rest of the world sort of catching up to those first stages. And it's interesting for me to go back to the original book and the original audio book of me reading, because that's the first one. The second version of the book comes with all the structure, and it got endorsed by our Minister of Veterans and Defence. And that came out, so that gave it a lot more weight behind it. Still a lot of issues with the medical fraternity, but now that it's clinically endorsed, and now we have masters of social work and all these people that are saying, hey, listen, anything that can help our people. I'm just wording it politely here so you can use this in Canada. We trust these men and women with the lives and the missions of critical importance. That's the trust that we have in our militaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So give them the information and let them process it. This was the thing that annoyed me. It's like an infantry soldier, and share this video with them, and I'm going to jump on and talk to these guys as well. It's the equivalent. If the medical modality is one that's processing all of it before it gets to our military, it's the equivalent of an infantry soldier, and your guys are all infantry soldiers, of having someone that's not in the infantry test all their kit. So and my father's an audience, an ordnance, so I'm not crapping on the ordnance guys. But if you're not an infantry soldier, then you shouldn't be testing the books, the boots, the pack, the weapon system that the infantry is going to use. The infantry research and development teams, they test all the boots and all the kit that they are going to use. So in my mind is like, why is someone else assessing what's best for me when I'm trusted with the lives and the missions of critical importance? Give me the information. Let me go play with this.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the fundamental thing for me, is you've grabbed your guys and gone, hey, I've seen this. This makes sense to me. What do you guys think? Then all of a sudden, when you're asking questions, they're coming in the prefrontal cortex and they're actually making decisions. They're in control. Because they're out of control of their thoughts, feelings, behavior. They already feel like a school kid going to the headmaster's office because there's something wrong with them or they're in trouble. But now it's an equality. We're all instructors. You're an instructor in your modality. I'm an instructor in mine. Here's the stuff. Let's go through and assess it together. Now we're a team. Yeah. So all of a sudden, I've gone from 3 o'clock in the morning, nightmares and everything going on. I'm alone. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I've got to hide this, and the weight of hiding this and wearing those masks gets too much. To walking into a room and going, oh, there's another werewolf. There's another assassin. Hey, bro, we buddy up. Now we're on a mission again. So you've got battle buddy, so you're not alone. Now you've got team. Now you've got mission. Nothing else you need, especially if you've got your own kit. And that's what you've done. You've grabbed them together and gone, right, here's something in your own language. You tell me what you think. But they don't know that you're dealing with your own trauma going back. And so this is where I really want to end this interview. Now, it's just a huge shout out to what you do. So all counselors and psychologists and psychotherapists and every other ist that we've got out there, yes, we go out in uniform to do things. We volunteered, though. We weren't conscripted, so we're going to end up on some accountability, all right? You've got to own your shit, guys. You went and did your job, but you volunteered to put the uniform on. And you can expect, if you put a uniform on, military, police, whatever, frontline services, you're going to deal with stuff that's traumatic. That's the job. The organization should give you the training to prepare for that, and they should give you the support for afterwards to get through it, all right? But the moment you turn up and start talking and someone gives you something to do, it's on you then, because it's still your life. And people think, oh, Dion, that's a little bit harsh. You can't say you got to own your shit and put it back on them. But we're flipping soldiers, mate. Give us the kit, give us the O group or the briefing, and leave us alone. Let us do it. We'll get it done. So that challenge is that rise, because the other thing we have to attack is this victim mentality. Some of my own crew are still running around crying about their PTSD. And I'm like, bro, I know you, I love you. I wrote the bloody book. I'm not saying do what I'm telling you to do. In the book, you can go through it yourself. You can create and get through the solution yourself. But don't sit there and cry about this flipping year after year that you're post-traumatic stress, because you can get through it if you want to get through it. I've got a modality. I think it's pretty good and it's positive. But there's other modalities out there that can help you get through it. If you choose to and you find someone you resonate with, and there's a process for you to follow. And so we'll finish on accountability. A huge thank you to people like yourself, Nilesh, that are out there doing the work. Man, God has got a sense of humor, man. Seriously. Put a good-looking brown Fijian like you in Canada.
Yeah, brother, thank you. I am so lucky. I don't know how I got to find your book. I put it on God. I mean, he got me there. Found it, and it's helping me. It's helping the men and women that I serve. That's what matters most. They're our family. If we're not there for our family, who the hell will be, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, I'm glad. I'm proud of everything that I learned. It's a learning thing, and I'm glad to be able to do this. And I went through the similar things where, when I went to psychologists for my own trauma, it's like they were not speaking my language, right? And so it never worked out. Um, Not until the book kind of helped me through my own traumas. It's like, yeah, right. I mean, so strive hard to do the same, and I put the challenge out to all your listeners and anybody that watches this, is that make sure you test your counselors, your psychologists, anybody that's out there to help you. Make sure that they want to know what you're going through, and to be able to use your language.